There are days in the sky that move loudly and days that move generously. Today is the second kind. May 12th of 2026 does not arrive with the sharp edge of a crisis or the electric charge of something about to break open. It arrives the way a conversation arrives, when the other person actually has something real to say, and when you are actually in a position to hear it. That is the quality of today. Something is being said in the sky right now that you have been waiting to hear for longer than you may realize, and the conditions for receiving it are as good as they are going to get for a significant stretch of time ahead. Before we go any further, I want to talk about the personal readings that I am offering currently. General horoscopes are written for everyone, which means in practice they are written for no one in particular. What I am offering is a personal wealth reading built specifically around your exact name, date of birth, time of birth, and place of birth, with a direct focus on 2026. It examines your chart, your financial patterns, your timing windows, and where the energy of this year specifically lands for you. You will receive an audio reading delivered to your inbox, plus a written report. The link is in the description below. Okay, let's get back to the video. The central event of May 12th is a sextile between the Sun in Taurus and Jupiter in Cancer. The Sun sits at around 22 degrees of Taurus. Jupiter is moving through Cancer, the sign of its exaltation, the sign where it operates with the most natural ease and the most genuine warmth. A sextile is a 60-degree angle between two planets, and it belongs to the category of aspects that astrologers describe as supportive. Not a conjunction where two forces merge into something that can be as overwhelming as it is powerful. Not an opposition, where two forces pull in opposite directions and demand resolution. A sextile is an open door. It is the geometry of availability. The question with a sextile is never whether the energy is present. It always is. The question is whether you are oriented toward it or not. What the Sun in Taurus brings to this conversation is a quality of honest material presence. Taurus does not deal in abstractions. The Sun in this sign is aware of what is real, what is grounded, what has proven itself through simple duration. It is the part of your awareness right now that knows what it has built, and what is genuinely solid beneath you. This is not a dramatic or showy awareness. Taurus does not perform. It simply knows what is there and what is not, and it holds that knowledge without needing to announce it. Jupiter in Cancer brings something different in texture, but complementary in direction. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, of genuine growth, of the kind of abundance that is not manufactured but real. In Cancer, Jupiter expands through emotional depth, through rootedness, through the interior life rather than the external one. Cancer is the sign of home, of foundations, of the private self beneath the public one. When Jupiter moves through Cancer, it is not expanding your visibility or your reputation or your professional reach, at least not directly. It is expanding your emotional foundations, the roots beneath what you have been trying to build, the private sense of worth and belonging that determines, far more than most people acknowledge, what you are actually capable of sustaining in the external world. When the Sun in Taurus forms a sextile to Jupiter in Cancer, these two energies are in genuine conversation. The conscious self, aware of what is materially real, opens a line of communication with the expanded emotional foundation that Jupiter has been quietly building in Cancer through the first half of this year. What this produces is not a dramatic breakthrough. It is something subtler and in some ways more durable. It is a moment of genuine recognition, a moment when what you have been working toward internally becomes visible in what you have materially, or when the material reality you have been building shows you its emotional roots with unusual clarity. You may feel this today as a quiet sense that something is actually working. Not everything, probably not the loudest or most urgent thing you have been focused on, but something real, something that has genuine roots beneath it. Something that belongs to who you actually are in 2026 rather than who you were trying to be, may make itself known today with a clarity that is both simple and sustaining. Mercury and the approaching conjunction with the Sun matter here too. Mercury is also in Taurus right now, moving toward a conjunction with the Sun that becomes exact on May 14th. A Sun-Mercury conjunction is called a cazimi in traditional astrology, the moment when Mercury is at the very heart of the Sun, when thought and communication are absorbed into the light of the solar principle. The thinking mind becomes more aligned with the central self. There is less distance between what you think and who you are. In the days before Mercury reaches the heart of the Sun, there is a quality of thoughts clarifying, not arriving fresh from nowhere, but resolving. Things you have been turning over for weeks may feel clearer, not because new information arrived, but because the angle of light changed and what was already there became easier to see. This is the specific quality of the Mercury-Sun conjunction approaching in Taurus, not revelation but resolution. The thoughts with genuine substance and alignment rise. The thoughts that were noise begin to quiet. Combine this with the Sun-Jupiter sextile, and what you have on May 12th is a day where the clarity of what is real and the warmth of what is possible meet in genuine contact. The realistic mind and the expansive heart are not in opposition today. They are in conversation. And what tends to emerge from that conversation when you are paying honest attention is a sense of direction that is both grounded and generous. Not the urgency of a moment that demands immediate action, nor the paralysis of a moment that asks you to wait indefinitely. Something more useful than either. A clear sight line toward what is genuinely worth building, and an emotional foundation solid enough to build it from. Pluto stationed retrograde in Aquarius on May 6th of this year, and that retrograde is now active. This matters for understanding what May 12th is doing beneath its generous surface, because Pluto retrograde changes the direction of the deepest transformation from outward to inward. When Pluto is direct, its pressure tends to operate through external circumstances. When it turns retrograde, the same pressure redirects inward. The external circumstances may look identical, but the question shifts from what is changing around you to what is changing in you as a result of what has already happened. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius is asking something precise, whether the framework through which you interpret your own life is actually yours, or whether it was assembled from what was available without your full conscious participation. Aquarius rules the mind at the level of organizing principle rather than individual thought. It governs the assumptions beneath the decisions, the structures beneath the behavior. When Pluto moves retrograde through this sign, it is doing quiet excavation work. What it surfaces is not crisis. It is old material that now needs honest reckoning. On a day when the Sun is in open conversation with Jupiter, and Mercury is clarifying what is real, Pluto retrograde adds depth to those conversations rather than interrupting them. The Sun-Jupiter sextile shows you what is genuinely available. Pluto retrograde asks whether your current understanding of yourself is actually capable of receiving it. If you notice today that something good is visible to you, and you immediately find reasons it is probably not real, or not for you, or not going to last, that is Pluto retrograde surfacing the exact place in your framework that needs adjustment. Not to block the abundance Jupiter is expanding, but to show you precisely where your own interior architecture has been quietly arguing against your own good. Aries, Mars is your ruling planet, and it is still moving through your own sign, which means you are carrying an unusual amount of personal momentum right now. The Sun-Jupiter sextile touches your second and fourth houses, connecting material resources with your emotional foundations. Something about what you have been building financially has a deeper root than you have been giving it credit for. A realistic look at that root today will be more useful than another push for external acceleration. Taurus, the Sun is in your sign, and it is moving toward a conjunction with Mercury that becomes exact in 2 days. This is one of the more personally clarifying stretches of your entire year. The Sun-Jupiter sextile today activates your first house of self and your third house of communication and nearby connections. Something you have been thinking about expressing, a perspective, a plan, a truth about yourself that has been sitting quietly, has more support behind it right now than you may realize. This is a good moment to let yourself be heard. Gemini, Venus is moving through your sign, and Uranus is now also in Gemini, which means your sign is carrying an unusual amount of activating energy in 2026. The Sun-Jupiter sextile touches your 12th and 2nd houses. The 12th house is the private interior self, the part of you that processes things before they surface publicly. Something from that interior space is being connected today to the question of material worth and resource. What you have been sitting with privately has genuine value. You do not need to resolve it before it counts. Cancer. Jupiter is in your sign, and this is one of the most significant sustained transits you have experienced in more than a decade. Jupiter in your sign is expansive in a specific way. It is expanding your sense of what you are actually worth emotionally, which then slowly but surely changes what you attract in every other dimension of your life. The Sun-Jupiter sextile today connects your 11th house of future vision and community with your own first house of identity. The version of yourself that has been forming over the past several months is becoming more visible to others. Let it. Leo, the Sun is your ruling planet, and when it forms a generous aspect, you feel it in a way that other signs may not. The Sun-Jupiter sextile activates your 10th house of public life and professional direction, and your 9th house of growth, travel, and expanded understanding. Something that belongs to your longer trajectory, a direction rather than a task, is becoming clearer. Not as ambition, but as genuine orientation. You know more clearly today than you did a week ago where you are actually going, and that clarity is its own form of resource. Virgo, Mercury is your ruling planet, and it is moving toward its conjunction with the Sun, which means your ruling planet is about to be at the heart of solar power in the Taurus part of your chart. For Virgo, this conjunction activates the 9th house of philosophy and broader understanding, and the 8th house of shared resources and what you receive from others. Something about how you have been thinking about money that belongs to you jointly, whether through partnership, shared accounts, investments, or what you receive through others, is clarifying in a way that could change a practical decision if you let it. Libra, Venus is your ruling planet, and it is moving through Gemini, which activates your 9th house of expansion. The Sun-Jupiter sextile for Libra connects the 8th house of deep resource, transformation, and what you receive from others with the 7th house of partnership. There is a conversation about worth that belongs in one of your significant partnerships that has been postponed, not because the relationship cannot hold it, but because you have been uncertain whether you can. May 12th offers some of that certainty. Scorpio, Pluto is your ruling planet, and it is retrograde in Aquarius, moving through your 4th house of foundations and home. The Sun-Jupiter sextile activates your 7th house of partnership and your 6th house of daily work and health. What is being clarified today is not abstract. It is about the practical daily life you have been building, and whether the partnerships in it are actually contributing to that life, rather than drawing from it. The honest answer to that question is available today if you are willing to look at it without the softening that Scorpio sometimes applies to things it is not ready to name. Sagittarius, Jupiter is your ruling planet, and it is in Cancer right now, which means your ruling planet is in the sign of its exaltation. This places Jupiter in your 8th house, the house of transformation, shared resources, and what you receive through circumstances beyond your direct control. The Sun-Jupiter sextile for Sagittarius connects your 6th house of daily effort and your 8th house of what comes to you without being directly earned. Something is coming toward you through a channel you have not been focused on and may not even have been aware of as a channel. Pay attention to what arrives from unexpected directions in the days around today. Capricorn, Saturn is your ruling planet, and it is in Aries, moving through your 4th house of home and foundations. The Sun-Jupiter sextile activates your 5th house of creative expression and your 9th house of philosophy, growth, and expanded horizons. There is a creative direction that you have been treating as a luxury, something to come back to when the serious work is done. May 12th suggests that this is the serious work. The direction you find genuinely interesting, not just structurally sound, is the one with the most durable foundation beneath it. Aquarius, Pluto is retrograde in your own sign, and the weight of that retrograde is personal in a way it is not for other signs. The Sun-Jupiter sextile for Aquarius activates your 4th house of foundations and your 8th house of deep transformation and hidden resources. What is being illuminated today is the connection between your emotional foundation and your relationship to resources that are not immediately visible. Something buried, whether a financial resource you have not fully acknowledged, an emotional strength you have not fully claimed, or an inner knowing you have been treating as uncertain, is worth paying more direct attention to right now. Pisces, the North Node, is in your sign, and that placement has been giving Pisces an unusual degree of cosmic relevance through this period. The Sun-Jupiter sextile activates your 3rd house of communication and ideas, and your 7th house of significant partnerships. Something you have wanted to say in a close relationship, a thought, a truth, a hope that has been floating without a clear moment to land, has better conditions for expression today than it has had in some time. The grounded honesty of Taurus and the warmth of Jupiter in Cancer are both supporting whatever it is you have been trying to say. A sextile between the Sun and Jupiter does not produce the kind of transformation that announces itself dramatically. That is not what it is designed to do. What it produces when you meet it honestly is a kind of quiet expansion, the sense that the available space in your life is slightly larger than it was, that a direction you had mentally categorized as distant is actually closer than the category allowed, that a resource you had mentally categorized as insufficient is actually, looked at from the angle this sky provides, somewhat more than that. These are not small adjustments. The mental and emotional categories through which you assess what is possible for you determine almost everything about what you actually pursue and what you quietly set aside without even calling it a decision. When one of those categories shifts, even slightly, the downstream effects move through years rather than days. The Sun-Mercury conjunction that becomes exact on May 14th is going to consolidate whatever clarity arrives today. Taurus consolidates. It does not scatter or fragment or send things off in multiple directions at once. What it touches, it holds. The thoughts that come into focus in the days around this conjunction do not fade the way insights sometimes do when they arrive under more volatile skies. They settle. They become part of how you understand your situation rather than a flash of perspective that vanished before you could act on it. Jupiter in Cancer continues through the first half of 2026, which means the emotional expansion that is making this sextile possible is not a single event. The roots Jupiter is deepening in Cancer do not stop growing after today. What today offers is a particularly clear view of what that root system is actually supporting. A moment when the Sun's honest Taurus light shines directly on the work Jupiter has been doing beneath the visible surface of your life and shows you that more was growing than you realized. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius will continue asking its question through the weeks ahead, whether your framework of understanding is large enough and honest enough to receive what is actually available to you. The Sun-Jupiter sextile today is the sky's clearest current argument that the answer should be yes, that the framework can expand, that the transformation Pluto retrograde is facilitating inwardly is not making you smaller, but clearing the parts of the structure that were never genuinely yours, making room for something with real capacity. Saturn in Aries is present in the background of all of this. Its ongoing message through this entire period is something more specific than patience, the willingness to begin correctly, to start from where you actually are with what you actually have toward what you actually want. Jupiter in Cancer expands through what is emotionally genuine. Saturn in Aries builds through what is structurally honest. Both, in their different registers, are asking you to work from truth rather than from strategy. And the Sun sextile Jupiter today, with Mercury moving toward the heart of the Sun, is giving you one of the clearer days of this month to see what that truth actually looks like in your specific situation. There is a version of today that passes without much notice. The Sun and Jupiter form their sextile and you move through the day feeling vaguely better than expected without understanding why. The version that actually serves you is simpler than any ritual. It requires only honest attention. At some point today, in whatever quiet you can find, consider one thing that is genuinely going well. Not as a practice in optimism, but as a factual observation. What in your life right now is working better than the story you have been telling yourself about your life would suggest? The Sun and Jupiter are pointing at something specific. The question is whether you are oriented in the right direction to see it. Whatever you find there is not small. The thing that is actually working, honestly observed on a day when the Sun is in open conversation with the most generous planet in the sky, has more structural reality beneath it than the things that feel urgent but are only loud. May 12th is asking you to see what is real before the new moon in Taurus on May 16th invites you to plant something new. You plant better when you know what is already growing.